Commissioner Seeley, thank you. I want to congratulate Denny and Rick on being here today. Cal, the last 6.5 months, I'm telling you, it's been unbelievable being able to hang out with you. Congratulations to you and your family, to everybody in their family. For me, this story kind of begins in Long Beach, California. As a kid growing up, my brothers and I watched baseball all the time, played it all the time in our backyard. And for us, I don't think any of us thought that hitting a fig or hitting a sock ball or hitting a wad of tape was going to turn into this. It's just unbelievable. My older brother Charles, he kind of led the charge. He was kind of the first guy to get out and compete. And every day, Chris and I would sit at home waiting for him to come back to tell us whether he had won or not. And for like 16 straight games, they won. And that first time that he came home in the championship game and they lost, Chris and I were crushed, but it kind of taught us a lesson in that, if you want something, if you want to compete and you want to be successful, that you got to get out there and you got to try it. You're never going to find out sitting at home. And Chris and I were sitting at home, and so the next year I was old enough to go out and start playing myself. And in the course of playing, you run into, or you have the good fortune to play for some good coaches. And for me, I play for 3 Little League coaches that are very important to me. Nick Ortega, Joe Peruccio, and his dad, we called him Mr. P because his name was Isidore, and as kids we had trouble saying Isidore, so we'd call him Mr. P. And with those 3 guys, they really kind of set a foundation with us about the fundamentals of the game. Later on, I would go on to play basketball, and basketball is a lot different sport because it's constant motion. And 3 coaches again, Jim Ferguson, Ron Palmer, Earl Parker, those 3 guys, again, kind of left me with some information that would help me when I got to this level. And then from there was on to San Diego State, and I went there on a basketball scholarship, believe it or not. I know people are sitting out there at home shaking their heads like these guys up here are shaking their heads, but yeah, I went to San Diego State on a basketball scholarship. I played there 4 years, played varsity 4 years, and Tim Veazey was my first coach there, and he told me that as a point guard, your job is to make sure that everybody on the floor, all your teammates are better players. And again, words that, he's trying to teach me how to play the game of basketball, but later on would have a huge impact on what I would later become. At the same time, the reason why I went to San Diego State was so that I could play baseball also, and I played for a guy there by the name of Jim Dietz. And Jim Dietz is a baseball man. He's a fundamental man. He wants you to back the bases up, hit your cutoff man, do all the little things in the game of baseball that when you get to this level, all of a sudden those words that my Little League coaches, my basketball coaches, and now in college, my college coaches, they came into play. From there, June 6th. June 6th is a very important date in my life because June 6th is the day that I met my bride, Alicia Lorraine Cureton. And from that point on, my life was pretty much set because we were partners in this. We were going to go, she was going to let me go out and play baseball, and she was going to raise our children. And I got constantly reminded of this once I got to the big leagues, because getting to the big leagues, I don't want to say it's easy, but once you get here, the object is to stay here. And my wife allowed me to go kind of chase my dream. She allowed me to go out and spend all the time I could trying to be the best baseball player that I could be. And I'm saying it now because I'm trying to stay in order. Honey, I'll get back to you at the end. 2 days later, June 8th, 1981, I got drafted in the morning by the San Diego Padres. Jack McKeon, who I saw here yesterday, is the reason I was drafted by the Padres. The whole time I thought I was going to be an Astro. And out of the blue, the Padres called me in the morning wanting to know what my middle name was. And because I hadn't heard from them all year, I kind of figured, oh, Lord, I'm going to be wearing a brown uniform. I signed with the Padres. I also got drafted by the Clippers later on in that afternoon. And I don't think we'll ever see a guy get drafted in two sports on the same day, two different sports on the same day, because the drafts have become shows themselves, as we found out this year with Major League Baseball. We had our own draft show, and it was pretty cool. I signed with the Padres. I went off to Walla Walla, Washington. And that year in 1981, the big league teams were on strike. And so teams, what they did was they didn't want to just hand out a free paycheck. They sent the coaches off to the minor league spots. And so in Walla Walla, Washington, the two coaches they sent to me were Frank Howard, who was the manager of the Padres at the time, and Bobby Tolan, who was the hitting coach. And after signing with the Padres, after playing 3 years at San Diego State, using an aluminum bat, my concern going to pro ball was, would I be able to swing a wood bat? Would I be able to generate enough bat speed to make it at this level? And Bobby Tolan assured me that I would be able to do that. And he promptly took me out on the field, gave me a fungo bat, said, here, I'm going to flip you some balls. You go ahead and you take your swing. And that day, I mean, I hit balls further than I ever hit in my life. I really thought this game was going to be easy. And he reassured me that it wasn't. The three guys, I played with three guys off that Walla Walla team that eventually made it to the big leagues. One is a guy by the name of Greg Booker, who I know is text messaging me right now as I speak. The other one is a guy that I think a lot of you guys probably know. He's on Baseball Tonight probably 3-4 times a week, Johnny Kruk. And all three of us, when we signed, were three of the most quietest people you'd ever want to meet. None of us really knew what the heck we were doing. We were going to play pro ball. We're riding on these buses, and for the first time, we were away from home. And we got out on the road, and we kind of made a pact with each other that we were going to try our best to get to the big leagues and have some success. And so from there, again, you get started in your minor league career and you have some success right away. I started out in Walla Walla, Washington, which is the Northwest League, which is A-ball. Got off to a pretty good start. Jack McKeon, again, was the general manager of the club, and he said, Tony, and I'm quoting here, and I didn't believe him when he said it. He said, Tony, you're too good for this league. We're going to have to move you up a notch. And me being inexperienced in pro ball, I said, why, Jack? I'm having a good time. Why do I need to move up? And he said, well, if you want to get to the big league, son, don't you? And I said, yes, sir. And he says, well, we need to move you up. So I went from A-ball, from low A to double A, to Amarillo, Texas. And in Amarillo, Texas, again, you follow these little credos in this game. And at the time, for me, in the minor leagues, they said, if you could have success at the double A level, you could have success in the big leagues. Well, I was only in Amarillo a month. I hit 462, so going into the winter, I was pretty convinced that given an opportunity, I could get to the big leagues. Later on that year, the Padres sent me to Instructional League, and I got a chance to meet a guy who I idolized as a kid and would have an opportunity to play against as a professional, and that was Rod Carew. The Padres and the Angels, we shared complexes, and I had heard early in the day that Rod Carew was going to come out and speak to the Angel players, and because I was a Padre, I wasn't allowed, and so what I did was I kind of hid and listened to his whole spiel on how to bunt to the Angel guys, which, by the way, Rod, I don't think many of those guys were listening to you like I was. Got an opportunity to talk to him, got an opportunity, like I have with a lot of these guys sitting here today, had an opportunity to talk to them, ask them about their craft, how they do what they do. One thing about the game of baseball, if you want something, you can't be afraid to ask. And as a lot of these guys will tell you, I pestered the heck out of a lot of these guys. So I had the opportunity to talk to him, and he gave me some really great advice. Be yourself, hit the ball where it's pitched, work the count, hit a ball in the strike zone. That was all stuff I would carry on with me to the big leagues. And then once I got to the big leagues, there was a cardinal rule. when you got to the big leagues. Keep your eyes and ears open, keep your mouth shut. And I did that a lot. I kept my mouth shut, and I laughed a lot, because laughter, I learned later on, would be that thing that would disarm people. And so 1982, my first year in the big leagues, I getting a taste of what big league baseball is all about, and I loved it. A couple of years later, I was 1983, coming back from a wrist injury. I hadn't had a whole lot of time. I'd been hurt. I got hurt playing winter ball, missed half of the season. A turning point, I think, in my career, and that was in June of 1983. I was struggling bad. I was hitting 220, and we were on the road, and I called home, and I asked my wife, I said, honey, do you think you could hit the record button for me? And we had an eight-month-old. Our son, Anthony, was 8 months old, and he was running around the house in diapers, tearing everything up, pulling stuff off the tables, just a real active child. And luckily for me, my wife said yes. She hit the record button, and from the time I came home from that trip to the day I retired, I was a big believer in video. Video made a huge. I would not be standing here today without video. And again, my wife hit the button, and all of a sudden, it just opened up a new avenue for me, because I learned at this level, it's about knowing what you do when you get in that batter's box. It's about knowing how they're going to pitch you, how they're going to play you, how they're going to attack you, and you having a game plan to try to attack them, because pitchers have the ball in their hand, and they feel like they're dictating the action. But I can guarantee you there's some guys sitting on this podium today who maybe won't yell it out, but you know what? When they had the bat in the hand, they kind of dictated the action. Now, for me, it was a whole lot more fun, because I really didn't hit the ball out of the ballpark. So pitchers would stand on the mound and look at me and say, yeah, he's not going to strike out. He's going to put the ball in play, so I'm going to try to make a good pitch. And I would take advantage of that. And so video really helped me to learn that. 1984 was really a good year for us, for the Padres. We had some veteran guys on our club, a Steve Garvey, a Goose Gossage, a Greg Nettles, and I was the fortunate one, because my locker was right in the middle of all those guys, of Garv, of Terry Kennedy, Tim Flannery, Bruce Bochy, and Greg Nettles. And every day they talked about baseball. And they talked about how the game was played and the things you need to do and how you should go about your business. And for me, Steve Garvey was great, because he gave me good advice. He gave me the kind of advice that a young player could take and then try to run with it. And so I did. I really tried to emulate some of the things that Garv told me. He said, stay on an even keel. He said, never get too high, too low. Just go about your business. Go about your business the right way. And that's what I tried to do. 84 was also my first All-Star game, and another kind of breakthrough moment for me, because you walk into that All-Star locker room for the first time, and you're seeing all these names, Mike Schmidt, Ozzie Smith, all these names, and you just don't feel like you belong. And my locker just happened to be between Ozzie Smith and Mike Schmidt. And they've welcomed me in. Come on, kid, have a seat. Just like these Hall of Famers have welcomed me in. Come on in, kid, have a seat. But you know that being in an All-Star game, there was still a whole lot to learn, a whole lot more to learn about the game. One thing I learned about Ozzie that year at the All-Star game was that if I made any more All-Star games, I wanted my locker to be next to his. And the reason why? Because he laughed. He laughed all the time. And when you laugh, and you can laugh at yourself and laugh at others, that makes the game a whole lot easier to play. So every time I made an All-Star team, I was like, I put my locker next to Ozzie's locker, because Ozzie can stir it up, really. He's one of the best I've ever seen at stirring it up. And I know he's making faces, because I know something's coming later. One other guy I'd like to mention, because I think our careers kind of paralleled, and that's Wade Boggs. Wade Boggs was the guy in the American League that put the numbers on the board, and the guy that I tried to emulate, because we had a similar style. We did similar things, but he was in the American League and I was in the National League. And the things that he was doing on the field, that's what I wanted to do. And pretty much from that point until 1992, things were, I was like a pretty good player, a guy that really didn't hit the ball out of the ballpark. You got your hitch, you did your thing. And then in 1992, earlier in the year, I had a chance to sit down with Joe Morgan, and we were talking about hitting, and I was asking him about, when the weather gets hot, do you lighten the weight on your bat? It's some hitting question, and Joe could tell that I really was intrigued about the art of hitting a baseball, and he says, you know what, Tony, at some point you need to sit down with Ted Williams. And later on at that All-Star game in that year, 1992, I had a chance to sit down and talk to Ted Williams. Now, I got to tell you, the reason why he made such a huge impact in my career, I think, is that growing up, my father talked about Ted Williams all the time. He had two guys, Ted Williams and Jackie Robinson. My brothers and I, we had Ted Williams' book, The Science of Hitting. That thing had all kind of notes and pictures and diagrams and everything in it. And I'd been in the big leagues for 11 years, and I wanted the opportunity to meet Ted Williams. And the first time I met him, I had a bat in my hand, and I said, hello, Mr. Williams, how are you? And he says, hey, Tony, how you doing? Let me see your bat. And I handed him my bat, and he started to pick his teeth with it. He started to pick his teeth with it. And if you're worth your salt as a hitter, your mind starts to race, it starts to tick. And really, what Ted made me do, he really made me think about the art of hitting a baseball. Now, I got to tell you, he was a great man, but he was ornery when it came to hitting a baseball. And I used to ask him, I'd say, Ted, you got four guys on the right side of the field. Why don't you hit the ball the other way? I wasn't going to let those guys beat me. Wasn't going to let them beat me. And that stubbornness, that feistiness, I think kind of rubbed off on me. And from that point in 1992 to the end of my career, as far as I'm concerned, I was a much better hitter. I've never been a home run guy, never been a big RBI guy, but from that point to the end of my career, I was much better at it. August 6th, 1993, another kind of watershed moment for me. It's my mom's birthday, August 6th. And I got my 2000th hit on August 6th, 1993. And for the first time, I think as a player, I honestly thought about, if I could get 1,000 more, I'd have a chance of going to the Hall of Fame. I was standing on first base with Gerald Clark, a former Padre. And, the Padres, we hadn't had many people get to the 2,000. Matter of fact, we hadn't had any get to the 2,000 mark. And, we tended to kind of go overboard. The video, the fireworks, the messages from people across the league. And I remember standing at first base telling Gerald, man, I got to get 1,000 more, man. This is great. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy to get to this point. You got to get to this point to get to the next point. But to me, getting to 3,000 was going to kind of get me where I needed to go. Was going to kind of justify the type of hitter that I was. And so that's the first time I honestly thought I might have a chance to get here. 98, we just had a tremendous team in 1998. We're lucky enough to get to the World Series. Won our division, beat the Astros, beat the Braves, and then happened to play the best team maybe in the history of the game in 1998, the Yankees. And getting to Yankee Stadium, for me, is still one of the biggest thrills of my life. Being able to walk out there with the monuments and see the history, see the retired numbers, seeing the guys who kind of paved the way for us to get here. So 98 was very special. And then 2001, October 9th, 2001, that was the day I retired. And I thought that I had a chance to get here and wasn't sure, but that day, it dawned on me that, you know what, you've had a pretty good career and people have enjoyed what you've done. And for me, what a day that was. And it's a lot like today. You don't expect it, because I never really looked at what I did as being anything special. I mean, I love the game. I think that's why you guys are here today, because you love the game. You have a passion for it. I have a passion for it. I still have a passion for it. I just don't play anymore. I love teaching. I love what I'm doing now. I'm now the baseball coach at San Diego State. This is my 5th year. Actually, it's going to be my 6th year, and I truly love what I do. I'm a big believer in whatever you want. If you want something out of this game, you got to put the work in. You got to work hard. My father said, if you work hard, good things will happen. And boy, oh boy, he was absolutely right. I worked hard in the game because I had to. I wasn't talented enough to just get by on ability. I really had to work at it. I had to do the video stuff. I had to extra hit. I had to kind of go about my business and do things the way I did. I think we make a big deal about work ethic. We make a big deal about trying to make good decisions and doing things right. And you know what? We're supposed to. That's what they pay us for. When you sign your name, I'm a big believer in when you sign your name on a dotted line, it's more than just playing a game of baseball. I think if you look out here today, you see all these people out here today, they love the game too. And there's a responsibility when you put that uniform on that those people who pay to go watch you play, you're responsible. You gotta make good decisions and show people how things are supposed to be done. You know, I played for one organization, the San Diego Padres, and when this day started out, I thought I was going to go third. I thought I was going to get to hear what other people said about their towns and their cities. I only know one way. That's the Padre way. All right, I wore brown. I wore the brown and gold. I wore the blue and orange. And I didn't get a chance to wear the sand and whatever color blue you want to call that, but I'm proud as heck to be a San Diego Padre. I played for one team. I played in one town. I told the people of San Diego when I left to come to Cooperstown, they were going to be standing up here with me. So I hope they're just as nervous as I am, because this is a tremendous honor to be here today. There's some people that I want you to meet. When I first started, I played for Ray and Joan Kroc, and both are deceased now, but Linda Ardell, their daughter, is here today. Thank you for coming. Next in line was Tom Werner and the group of 13 or 14 or how many owners we had. Tom is one of the owners of the Boston Red Sox. I don't know if he's here today, but a tip of the cap to him. And John and Becky Moore is the best owners in baseball. Thank you for being there for me. John Jr. and Jennifer, I know you're here somewhere today too. Thank you. The community service team with the Padres, we did a lot of good work, didn't we? We did a lot of good work, and we will continue to do good work. Thank you. And all the fans that have made this trek all the way to Cooperstown, I can't begin to thank you. I know some of y'all were in a bus. Some of y'all drove in your cars. I see the brown and gold. I see the orange and blue. Again, thank you for coming. Thank you, you guys. I got a time limit. These guys are on me like a hawk, so they gave me some time, so I got to finish because we don't want to get rained on out here. Now, my mom, she came with us today. She came with us on this trip, but the whole time that we've been here, she's been a little bit under the weather. So, Mom, I know you're watching on TV. I love you. Thank you for coming. Don't feel bad about not being here. We love you, and I'm glad you can make the trip with us. You know, my father passed in 1993, and this would be an event he would love to be at. He would love it. My older brother Charles is here with his two daughters, Danielle and Clarice. Chris, my younger brother, and his wife Joanne, and their son and daughter Josh and Maya. Thank you guys for coming. And then my family, my wife, who, again, I would not be standing here today without her. Honey, I love you. Thank you. My son is here. He made it yesterday. Him and his wife, Elise. Thank you guys for coming. I'm going to be a grandpa in October for the first time, so that child's got no chance. Got no chance. And my daughter Anisha, who sang the Canadian anthem and the national anthem, you guys, I'm so proud of you guys. I really am. You guys have, your mom did a wonderful job. And I've kind of rode in on the back end. You guys make me so proud just watching the way you handle. Being a son of a major league player is sometimes a difficult thing, but you guys have always handled it great. And the rest of my family, and that's you guys, that's the fans. My adopted family, especially my fans from San Diego. You know, it was 20 years, and we had a blast. I had a blast. I truly enjoyed it. But it wouldn't have been nearly as much fun if you hadn't been as supportive as you were. So I say thank you to all of our fans sitting at Petco Park in the morning. Thank you. To the fans who've made the trek, thank you. To the fans who are here to see everybody, I say thank you, because you know what? For the rest of my life, when I come here to the Hall of Fame and I look out and I see as many people as I see here today, I can say in our first time here, our first Hall of Fame weekend, the people were lined up way, way back to the trees. So thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Good job, man. Thank you.